get a job. I can do anything.
Next, a mountain biker is mauled by a mountain lion and a freak accident turns into a boater's worst nightmare. Can modern medicine work miracles? Find out on Impact Stories of Survival, next on Discovery Health Channel.
Wednesday. Insatiable hunger, a never-ending battle with obesity. Witness the struggle of those afflicted with Prader-Willi condition on Extraordinary People. Wednesday on Discovery Health Channel.
Impact. How much can the human body take? A rescue helicopter crashes into a mountain in mid-rescue. In an instant, your life can be shattered without warning. Your body broken. Your future left hanging by a thread. Only the heroism of total strangers, cutting-edge technology, and the practice of bold medicine stand between life and death. These are stories of survival, about real people pushed past their limits, lives forever changed by a moment of impact.
Friday. Welcome to Detroit, where life is tough, but the expert emergency staff at Receiving Hospital is even tougher. Don't miss Trauma, Life in the ER. Friday on Discovery Health Channel.
Mount Hood is the world's second most climbed peak. Many succeed, but 130 climbers have died trying. Helicopter teams rescue dozens of injured climbers every year. But the unimaginable happened when a rescue helicopter crashed into the mountain and went down with 5 crewmen, ejecting one and rolling over him. On May 30th, 2002, 4 climbers were negotiating a steep icy ridge when disaster struck. They fell and collided with 2 more climbers. Then they hit a group of 3, and all 9 climbers slid down the icy slope into a crevasse. Within 2 hours, ground rescue teams were there.
It was absolutely the worst case scenario where, you had a domino effect and one person falling triggered a chain of events where everybody fell in a crevasse.
Down.
In the biggest rescue operation of the year on Mount Hood, dozens of rescuers struggled to save the injured. 6 surviving climbers were pulled from the crevasse, ready to be airlifted from the mountainside. Air Force Reserve helicopters planned to evacuate the most severely injured first.
There was already one helicopter that had picked up one patient with a pararescue member, and the others were getting queued up pretty quickly. So there was a degree of chaos, but things seemed to be running pretty smoothly.
The helicopters were operating on the very edge of control. The mountain was too steep to land on, but at 11,000 feet, the thin air made it extremely difficult to control the helicopters.
It doesn't take much for a helicopter at the limits of its abilities there's not much margin of error there.
The second most injured climber was successfully airlifted to Legacy Emanuel Hospital. Then, a helicopter returned to collect the third injured climber. Paramedic Bob Barrett was on the ground securing the litter. By his side was one of the Air Force parajumpers, also called a PJ for short.
The PJ was on the uphill side, kind of directing his helicopter crew to get the cable down to him. At that point, I could tell something was going wrong because the PJ just turned completely pale and had this, look of terror on his face.
All the rescuers watched in horror as the rescue turned into another disaster.
I knew the helicopter was in trouble when it dropped down to the left and I saw the rotors striking the snow. Couldn't believe I was seeing this thing crash.
The helicopter gained momentum as it tumbled down the slope, and the local news camera captured the horror of crew member Andrew Canfield being ejected out the open door. The 22-ton helicopter rolled right over him, crushing Andrew into the snow.
The only sound you really heard was the helicopter rolling down the mountain, kerchunk, 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 and then coming to rest. There was a split second where everybody was still waiting to see if it was going to explode. After that split second, I think it was pretty chaotic. We're going to go ahead and find out how many patients we have. I'll get that information, call you back, and let you know which patient has to go first.
Once the chopper came to rest, Bob Barrett was the first to reach Andrew.
A little sore. How about right here? Oh.
He was talking just fine, wasn't knocked out, but he had a lot of belly pain. He's pretty sore, pretty worried.
Okay, go look at me in my face.
I'm really surprised that he survived. And the fact that he was totally conscious was really impressive.
Although he was conscious, he could have a spinal injury that would cause paralysis if he moved the wrong way. If he had internal bleeding, it could kill him. Another Air Force Reserve helicopter was called in to rescue the would-be rescuer. At Legacy Emanuel Hospital, the ER staff was watching for the incoming evacuations when they actually saw the crash on the local news.
Someone in the room was first to acknowledge that it was the same airplane that had just been on our helipad. And so there became a personal interest. All of a sudden, we knew the crew.
When Andrew was brought in, the doctors were expecting the worst. Andrew was x-rayed, but they couldn't find any broken bones. Sure that he must have serious internal injuries, they gave Andrew a CT scan. Again, nothing. Dr. Gubler was astonished.
His injuries were really isolated to neck injuries.
He also had burns on his face and neck from the engine rolling over him.
When I push down here? Any pain?
But that was it.
The snow was soft enough that they were able to sort of be pushed down into the snow, and the helicopter didn't really injure him as badly as they would have. If it would have been on cement, it would have been a different issue.
Watching the video, it's hard to imagine how Andrew survived the crash.
I remember very distinctly when we first pulled in on scene, just the striking beauty of the mountain. That was the one thing that really sticks in my mind when I think back to that day.
Andrew was perched in the open door of the chopper, standing by to treat the injured climber, when the helicopter got caught in a sudden downdraft.
From the moment the helicopter started to lose lift, I knew immediately that it wasn't good. I got down, laid flat on the floor, flat on my back, and braced for impact. It wasn't a real hard impact because of the snow and the way the pilots were able to nose it into the mountain.
Near the bottom of the slope, Andrew was flung from the helicopter.
As soon as I was shot free from the helicopter, I had a sense of relief because I'm thinking, now I'm outside, so I'm safe. Then as I start rolling down the hill and I'm aware of where the helicopter is and that it's still rolling. And at that point, then I realize, okay, this situation is bad. The helicopter's about ready to roll over me. There's nothing you can do.
The chopper bore down on Andrew with all of its 22 tons, crushing him deep into the snow.
The engine compartment of the helicopter is what actually kind of rolled over me, the engine and the exhaust. So that's where I did get some burns from that. I couldn't move more than 5 degrees either direction. I realized, okay, there's very high possibility of having a C-spine fracture. My head was just pounding, because there was a lot of swelling and I had some burns.
None of Andrew's crewmates were seriously injured that day. After 3 weeks of recuperating, Darren went back to work. And after 3 months of recovery and physical therapy, Andrew went back on regular duty.
I remember my first helicopter flight after that. Of course, you have some thoughts of the crash, but the thought lasted just a few seconds and then I was ready to go. Like, should I step on this helicopter? Yeah.
Like all traumatic accidents, Andrew Canfield's impact turned his life upside down. In many cases, these near disasters set in motion a monumental chain of events, tragedy averted by heroic rescues, the will to live nurtured by medical professionals, and doctors combining science and insight to send these people back to happy, healthy lives, lives nearly lost in a moment of impact.